Hello, I hope you're keeping well. Today I'm going to do like a green smoky eye look. As you can see, I've already got a bit of a face on, but with hay fever and things, I thought it'd be easier to build over what I've got on rather than start from scratch and take my eye makeup off because they're a bit temperamental at the moment anyway. So I'm going to start with a little bit of eye primer. Just because I find that if I'm doing anything with slightly more adventurous colours, I want to prevent any staining. Now, this is a dedicated eye primer that I'm going in with. I'd always really recommend that you prep your lids before eyeshadow anyway, just so that they don't go anywhere. But don't feel like you have to go and buy a new primer. Even just doing like a layer of foundation and sealing it in with some powder is going to work really well. So I'm just doing that before I get cracking. As you can hear, that is Mom getting up and leaving the room. To be fair, she does always watch them back, I do hear her. But she must have thought, how many times have I got to watch you do your makeup? Who can blame her, let's be honest. So, I'm just going to set this with a bit of powder. Now, one thing I'm just going to resign myself to is that some of the powders are going to drop onto my mascara, as you can see there, and get them looking a bit clumpy. So not to worry at all. Okay, because I'm going to go back in with more mascara, is what I meant to say. Okay, so the green palette I'm using is the Charlotte Tilbury Rebel palette. But before I do anything, I'm going to go in with a little bit of bronzer through the sockets. Now, for me personally, I just love doing this however I'm going to be wearing my makeup, because I think it helps you to create a really soft blended finish. And actually, a lot of the time, whether it's a blue or a green or a purple, or especially if you had like a grey, the warmth of the bronzer really almost clashes with the coolness of some of these greens, for example, and makes it all pop quite nicely. So hopefully you'll see what I mean in a moment. But this should create quite a nice contrast. So I'm just tickling this in. I've just remembered I forgot to put my phone on airplane mode. So I daren't even look up at what's going to be going on in the group chat there, because I know I'll just start laughing. In fact, do you know what it'll be about? We have a mom squirrel and baby squirrels in the garden, and the mom has been teaching the babies today how to come out and run along the fence, and it's actually been amazing. So I've just put them in a load of videos to do with that, because at the start of the year, this is incredibly boring. I'm going in with my light green all the way up to the lid. But now that I'm here, at the start of the year, we saw the squirrel making a little nest, and she'd literally stolen like half of a bush in the garden. So we were laughing, and I'd sent them a video saying, can you believe like she's demolished this whole shrub on us? But now that we've seen her and the babies, you can't really be too angry at her, because it's been lovely to watch them today. Right, I don't know what's gone on there, whether it's my brush or I've got a feeling I used a mixing medium on this shadow, because it's not really coming out that much. A mixing medium is like you can put a few drops of like a gel and mix it in, and it makes it like a liner. Or like a waterproof formula. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you what I would do in this occasion. I'm going to scratch the top of that to get rid of any excess. Just going to tap that off onto a baby wipe. Let me try again. I'm going to go in with a slightly different brush in case that's what was going on. Wow. I don't know which one it was, but either way, my colour is coming out now. So, I'm going to get that green on both sides. Now, as you can see, this isn't terribly neat, and that's okay, because I'm actually going to create a really soft wash with this. And where I'm going to put my emphasis is on the darker green. So if you saw, little blending brush to blend these together. If you saw the other week, I did this smoky eye technique called a spotlight eye, which is where the inner and outer corners are darker and you leave the lid a little bit lighter. And that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm also going to use a little bit of this pressed glitter to add some sparkle to the inner corners there. I'm just going to remove that text because I can't see how much time I've got. I've got 5 minutes. So just want to build that a little bit more strongly. That's one thing I'd always advise you to do as well. If you're doing a blended look, you might want to, once you've created your blend, pack on a little bit more pigment again, because you almost have to buff most of it away to get the softness, but then you want to really get that nice, what's the word I'm looking for, pigmented wash of colour right on the lid. And I can see there's a few spills here, so I tell you what, I'll do a tidy up at the end. Okay, next I'm going in with a pencil brush, and I actually want to do something quite smoky today. I haven't had makeup on for a few days. I fancy really dialing it up. So I'm going to take this all the way under the eye and into those inner corners. I've got a bit of liner pencil on already, but I'll top that up in a bit. And what I love about this particular green, and this applies to any colour that you're thinking of having an experiment with, if you go for a darker variation of it, like for all intents and purposes, by the time I've finished with this, hopefully, it's still just going to look like a smoky eye. But you've got that little pop of green to it, but ultimately it just looks quite dark when you look at it. So that's a really nice way to experiment with a bit of colour if you're not used to it, is go for a darker version of it. Because like that lighter green is undoubtedly bright green, whereas the kind of framing I'm giving with this deeper colour could be anything from far away. Now, what I'm doing here is using it to create almost the illusion of a liner. Really soft with that pencil brush. So you've got this lovely kind of feline finish. I am liking that, but this isn't looking green enough for me. So I've gone nice and soft through here. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take the fluffy brush into that deeper green, and I'm just going to really gently tickle some of that into these outer corners. Now, that's going on a bit too gently. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to take my pencil brush and I'm going to create a little, as Kate in Liverpool would say, a little round the corner with this brush. Obviously this looks really harsh. However, by the time I've got my blending brush through it, it will gently soften out and just give me that nice definition through those outer corners. Now, I'm going to keep my eye open and look at that as I blend it out. Okay. And then a little bit like what I was saying a moment ago. Well, first of all, I'm just going to do this on the other side actually, so that I am nice and even. But then what I'm also going to do is go back in with some of the deep green so that you have that lovely soft blended socket, but then a real hit of that green around the lash line and just in that corner. So even though I'm careful of the shape, I'm almost placing it with that pencil brush and then doing the real work with this softer brush. Getting rid of, I mean, I'm very popular for this 5 minutes that I've come to do the video and forgotten to put my phone on airplane mode. But heaven forbid any of them texted me in the day when I would have been absolutely fine to have a laugh with them. Now, what Emma was texting me about there, thoroughly would recommend this as a personal, you know, way to pass the time at the moment. Me and one of my friends, Matthew, was saying, my God, we would just love a game of Monopoly. And there's an app that you can get and you can play Monopoly with your mates. I'm not going to lie to you, it's $3.99 and I don't think I've ever spent $3.99 on an app in my life. Like, what kind of all singing, dancing app have we got here if it's costing us that? But do you know what? We've used it loads. We sit on FaceTime so we can discuss what's going on. And it really is good. So if you want a game of Monopoly, I would thoroughly recommend that. I tell you what else I'd recommend while I'm just going to go in with my darker green and just deepen these corners. If you haven't already seen it, Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco is honestly the best thing I've seen. It is just so fab. I've had her on when I've been doing my work in the background. What I wouldn't give to be in that kitchen, I tell you what, it's the best thing. So that will really perk you up as well if you're just looking for some new bits. Do you know when you just want new bits to throw yourself into? That's been my favourite new bit. Okay, glitter. I'm going in with my ring finger. I've made a right state of my hands. Okay, ring finger. I went into that to apply it. I'm going to look in the mirror, that would help. And just press some of that on the lids. Now, because these lot keep texting me, I can't see how much time I've got. 2 minutes, that's plenty. I'm just gonna get that all over. I haven't quite been able to get it into that inner corner because I'm using my ring finger, which is quite big. And quite frankly, as you can see, I've got to be quite careful with these hands that I don't get the green everywhere else. So that might have to just be a bit of a, unfortunately, we can't do much about that. I really like this green, actually. I'll be honest with you, green isn't a colour that I would always gravitate towards. But because it's a deeper kind of green, I'm quite happy with how that's come out. Now, if you're doing a tidy up, really good tip is don't remove, just put a tiny bit more of your base on. So I'm literally just going to tidy up with a little bit more complexion. Lovely. While I'm looking at myself, I'm going to just set that with a little bit of powder. Not too much, but just soft. And I'm going to put a little bit of bronzer down the nose. I tell you why, that's to look like I haven't got as much makeup on, because I think with something like this green, I don't really want loads on everywhere. I just want that to be the focal point. I'm going to check. I'm going to just go in with a really fluffy brush and check that that's nice and blended into that bronzer. I really think the bronzer is the key there to making that look nice and fresh. And then, while I've got a second, I'm going to take a tiny bit of highlighter and just add a bit of glow where I haven't got any blusher. I mean, I've got green on my cheeks and down my nose. There we go, we've resurrected it all. Tiny bit of glow on the cheeks. So I hope you liked this one. Hope you're having a nice day. and I will be speaking to you, and message me if you've got anything in particular you want to see on a video. And thank you, April, for suggesting this one. Talk to you soon.